Hope you're having a great week, everyone. Thank you for spending part of it with us. Welcome to the Coach McVay Show, presented by Microsoft Surface. JB Long, DeMarco Farr, and the head coach of your 2-2 Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, on a Victory Monday. Always good to spend them with you.
Yes, it is.
Especially the overtime versions.
No. I'll tell you, we could have used without that, but it's amazing, JB and DeMarco. We were talking about it as a team, and especially with so many young guys, man, what an amazing amount of lessons we've learned in the first month, and especially in that game yesterday where I was really proud of the way we came out. And then, for us to relinquish that lead, for them to come back and tie it up, you give them credit, but I think a lot of teams would have folded in that situation. And I thought we played critical down football, critical execution at the moments that we had to have it the most, whether that was the defense getting the stop when they got the ball back with about 1:40 left, the second down tip by Hoyt, Quentin Lake making the breakup when we rushed 5 in the fire zone to then be able to earn an opportunity to go into overtime. And Benny Sco with the tails call was big right there to be able to win the, to be able to win that so that we could end up getting the ball. And then obviously Matthew in that drive. I thought we were to mix in a couple runs and then to be able to close it out hitting Puka was big. But man, what an amazing amount of things you can learn from. And it sure is easier to take that in stride after you get the results you want. But we're still hunting up, continuing to put together a full 4 quarters. And that's what is challenging about this league. It's also why you love it.
We got text messages, emails. You guys should be happy, right? It's happy. That was a great game. You won in overtime. And let me ask the coach. I mean, I'm sure you're happy you won, but do you feel like it shouldn't have gotten to overtime?
No, you know what? I don't want to minimize the job that Indianapolis did, DeMarco. You know as well as anybody how difficult it is. And there's no style points in this league. And so however you get it done, I think we can learn a lot more for the way that it went down. Now, do I wish that it had gone down differently based on some of the things that we can control? Absolutely. Do I think that from the way that it went down, we can take a lot more from it and we can grow more as a team? I genuinely do. And so that's all we can do is learn from the previous things, whether it be good, bad, or things we can improve on. And that's coaches and players alike. That's what we did today. And then, we'll shift and pivot our focus towards an excellent team coming in here next Sunday, and let's roll.
Let's bask in that game-winning drive a little bit. And my broadcast partner, Maurice Jones-Drew, pointed out that it felt a lot like the opening touchdown drive of the game. Did you kind of go back to where you started in your game plan with the throw to Puka and then chipping away with your running backs?
We were able to. The first play of the game was off of a drop back, but, there were some similar things that we were hunting up. And, it was a great job by the offensive line to be able to go longer developing play action on the first play of that overtime drive and to get 20 was big, JB. And then I thought one of the unsung plays was on the 2nd down and 8 that we had a couple plays later where Matthew moves in the pocket. The line is just straining a little bit more and he finds Kyron for a check down to get us to a first down. That was so big. I thought we had a couple big runs that we were able to mix in there. And then ultimately the 3rd and 4, good pickup by our guys. Great job by Matthew being able to find it. But it was that check down. He had 2 check downs to Kyron that were big on that drive. And but that was we did kind of go back to some things that we were doing early on, and we could operate that way.
I'm a big butt and gut guy. The O-line. I mean, a reconfigured O-line, and man, does Kevin Dotson make your line look huge.
He does. And I thought he brought a sense of physicality. I thought he showed even some really good athleticism on some second level blocks when we were running some perimeter type plays. But he and Rob Havenstein had some really nice, double teams at the point of contact. I thought we were able to, kind of stretch them horizontally, attack them vertically. I thought there was a good mixture, and I thought our guys executed at a high level. But you're right. I was really pleased with Kevin Dotson. And I was also really pleased with Joe Noteboom's ability to, hey, I'm starting at guard. Now I pivot back out to the left tackle spot. He battled. He strained. I thought Coleman and Rob were excellent. And Steve Avila, continues to really produce at a very mature, consistent level for a rookie. So I thought those 5 guys were key and critical.
Let me go back to those checkdowns, because maybe the story of week 2 and 3 was like the disconnect in the passing game between Matthew and Kyron.
Sure.
So I love to see the individual progress leading to team results, right?
It's a great point, JB. And I thought, especially just Kyron, just looking it in, doing the things he's capable of. He's such a talented football player, but sometimes it's like, hey, you're playing so fast that, you're taking for granted. All right, looking the ball all the way in and then getting vertical after the catch. But I thought that was a great reflection and illustration of, hey, they had it pretty covered. He ended up sliding in the pocket. They had good kind of nonverbal communication. He just slid. Matthew changes his arm slot and is able to hit him for the first of 2 checkdowns that he hit him on that drive. And those were big to be able to stay ahead of the sticks and only have the 1 third down, which was the 3rd down and 4 in the high red. And then obviously we get the touchdown there.
I thought both backs were good.
They were awesome.
Rivers, Kyron, they were both great, making nice cuts, setting up their blocks.
They were. I think it's well said, and I think it's the truth. And I was really pleased. And Ronnie had a couple productive runs that ended up getting called back. But I was really pleased with him. He played, a little under 25 snaps, and I think that was good to be able to get him in there. Kyron had another heavy workload, but I think those two supplementing one another is a really good combination.
How about that game winner? And I know Kyron picked up, made that rusher disappear, but you get a coverage bust, you take advantage, you walk off winners.
Yeah, no, you could see they were in a fire zone. They tried to communicate a little something late, with the stack and the release pattern that we gave. They both ended up jumping Hopkins, and we did a good job of being able to get it recognized and identify the 5 rushers. Kyron ended up taking speed coming off the edge, and then you could see, Matthew ended up, kind of putting it in a place where it was only Puka's, and then for him to be able to finish that was big, and there was a lot of excitement right there.
That's the only player that I have an 8-year-old that her 3rd grade classmates, they love Puka.
Everybody
loves Puka.
They do. Raheem Morris's son, Jalen, he loves him. He goes crazy, and how do you not? I love Puka too.
Big time. Phenomenal player. I love the way he blocks. I mean, he's involved in every single part of the offense. I think you said, was it champagne problems? Did we say that? First world problems?
We did. Champagne problems.
Yeah.
Because getting, hopefully the goal is to be able to get Cooper back. Before we put the cart before the horse, let's get him practicing. But, hopefully we're able to have him. And man, you had another really good playmaker. And I think Cooper's done such a good job of mentoring Puka. Even though he hasn't been playing through this first month, I know you. I mean, how do you not love the human being Puka Nacua is too, with the humility, the respect he has for his teammates for this game, and then just the way that he goes and competes. I mean, he's just checking a lot of boxes, and he's just stayed the same. He has fun. He loves competing. He loves that. He loves Cooper Kupp. He loves his teammates, and I'm happy for him, but we are excited to get Cooper Kupp back on the grass with us. That's a big boost, and I know I'm very happy about that as well.
I'm definitely coming back to that, but first, 2 rookie mistakes from Puka. First, you throw your first NFL touchdown into the second deck. Are the Rams getting that ball back?
That's a good question. You have to ask him about that. Somebody's got a good souvenir, though.
You got to respect him on the double pass now that we've seen his arm, though. And then the other one is he left you hanging in the locker room with the game ball. You were searching for him, weren't you?
I think you guys were probably interviewing him on the field.
Me.
He was doing social media hits or whatever it was. But he came in, what an authentic response, even as he's coming in, and just the love. And you could see, guys like him are so easy to root for. When you hear how happy his teammates are for him because of the humility and the way he goes about his business and all those things, if you don't love this guy or like what he's doing, then something's probably wrong with you.
There's another guy I like that had a great game. Big Rig Hig coming up big for you.
He did a good job. He's been steady. He's been solid. Really happy to be able to get him extended to Marco. He's a guy that he's been a glue guy, voted a captain by his teammates, and he's a special person, special player. He made a lot of big time plays for sure, and he did a lot of good stuff without the ball in his hands as well.
It's not easy to play tight end. It's not easy to play tight end in your offense.
No, it is not. It's not easy to play tight end in general in this league, especially when you ask them to basically be an offensive lineman on a handful of snaps, be a receiver on a handful of snaps, and all the different moving parts and the nuances, and he does a great job of demonstrating his versatility and value to our offense.
We were talking with him about an hour ago in here about just the career milestone of getting another contract extension, what he remembers most about being a pro now through parts of 8 seasons. He said 3 things: the Super Bowl ring, having that C on his chest now as a captain, and then having a bobblehead. He put those awesome. 3 things together.
Bobblehead, huh? It's an interesting third one right there.
That's like when he knew that he had made it.
You have a bobblehead? I thought you had one.
I don't know.
See? He's got a real statue.
He's got a real statue. That's right.
You
don't need a bobblehead.
Back to the Puka thing, and like you said, not putting the cart before the horse. But if and when he returns to action, hopefully as soon as Week 5 against the Eagles, we're all dying to know, how are you going to use him? How many nights have you stayed up, drawing things for the 2 of them together? Can we know before the Eagles, or we have to wait and see?
You guys will know when I know too, because it's one of those deals that there's been an optimism and a hope that this could be the week that he comes back. But we want to see. I think Reggie and his group have done a great job of working in alignment and in unison with Cooper of getting him ready, getting him to this point. we'll start that clock and we'll see how he feels. And if he's able to go, then we'll go with him. And there's a part of it of, man, we're really excited. It always starts with our guys. And then there's an element of, all right, what does the opponent look like? What are the best ways to try to utilize these players? And that's what we'll do if we feel like he's going to be ready to go.
Have not forgot about your quarterback. Man, does this guy get it. He can play. He's got a world-class whip. We all know this stuff, but I like how he plays the game. If he's in pain, he won't show it, but he had to. Yeah. And he still gutted it out. You know what I mean? When I see a quarterback in pain, I want to finish him off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he still made plays.
He did.
Yeah.
It was, I kind of said it yesterday, it was vintage Matthew Stafford. Took a good shot on a bootleg where their end was right up the field, and credit them for making that play, but he just kind of hung in there. And then I thought once he got back into a rhythm, he just displayed guts, resilience, toughness, great command and communication, big time throws in the the moments that we had to have it. And I think when you look at the way, especially that overtime drive went, we put the game in his hands. He did a good job of being able to get us in and out of some different stuff, but he came through in a big way. And sometimes I feel like that's when our guy's at his best.
Yeah, when he's banged up. Yeah. Do you ever ask him, like, are you okay? Or is that not even a part of your conversation with that guy?
I'm not that hopeless.
I'm just saying.
But it's, he's one of those guys. He doesn't want to usually talk about it. If he needed to come out, I think it's more about, are you able to still go? And it's usually an irritating question to him, and he'll let me know if there was anything different. But you'd have to rip him off the field in those situations. But that was awesome stuff by him. He's a stud.
So he goes out there for the opening coin toss with Ben Skoranek, right? You lose that one. But he's not there for overtime. It's just the Fort Wayne, Indiana native.
We might have to keep that up, man. I mean, we lost the opening toss.
And Ben's kind of sticking with the tails never fails approach, it seems like. Do you get in his ear at all before that?
I don't get into it, but that was a big tails call.
Oh, my God,
there.
That was huge.
That was another big one that feels like a different game ago, but I want to revisit with you Van's contested catch on fourth down in that fourth quarter, like how that shaped up the whole game and what it meant for him and for the team. I saw your reaction. It was ecstatic.
It was huge, because I thought that 2-play sequence, JB, you're talking about his 4th and 3 catch yesterday, right? Yep. I thought it's 3rd and 10. What a good disciplined decision by Matthew to take the underneath, kind of just little pivot route by Higbee for 7. And it contested. They did a good job of kind of being able to play a visual zone on him, and Indy just dotted it underneath. So that gets us to 4th down and 3. And then, they did a nice job. They played good tight coverage, but there was good vision on the quarterback. On the 4th down and 3, Matthew clicks across the board and ends up finding Van. And those two, what a huge play to be able to allow us to go up 14-0 on that drive. And a couple plays later, Kyron A was able to punch that in again. But that was a big play. And to be able to be aggressive in some of those windows when you're in that part of the field is big. You want to be able to keep it in your players' hands when you feel like the timing and the flow is right. And I thought that was a big play, and that was huge for Van. I thought he made a nice, really good route and good throw and catch on the 13-yard completion on the sidelines that he had earlier in the game on that drive as well.
Superman went Superman again, 99.
He is a stud.
I mean, just rewind and repeat.
He did.
Yeah,
no,
amazing.
He was outstanding, DeMarco. I mean, he really was. And there was a couple plays that he made that came back, because of some penalties that were unfortunate, but he impacted the game in a huge way. He beat some doubles. He ended up, winning some of the isolations that he had. He made his presence felt in the run game. I thought his pursuit, on the one sack that he has, it's a 3-man rush. You just see the way that he leaves his feet, ends up being able to, wrangle in a freaking stud in Anthony Richardson. That guy's a problem. I mean, and then I think Shane Steichen and those guys do an excellent job, but he has really, his level of play has been, it's been really good stuff.
When you talk ball with him, where does it come from? Like the motivation to be that damn good.
I think that's just who he is. He's always been one of those guys that, like I've said before, and we've talked about it, DeMarco, nobody has higher standards for Aaron than he does of himself. And there's just something about the greats that the complacency never sets, it just never sets in no matter what you've accomplished. And he loves it. Like the one thing about these guys that are just great at it, they just love it. They love competing. They love stretching themselves. They love continuing to challenge themselves to improve. And, there's an element of that process, your rhythm, your routine, but you love it all. And then, when the lights come on, there's a focus and concentration and an ability to be totally immersed in your craft that just some guys are just different. And that's what he's always been. And when he gets into that mode, you're not asking him many questions. You're just saying, you go do your damn thing, brother.
You're dang right.
We love when he feasts on like an opponent weakness, but it's just as cool to say, you know what, Quentin Nelson's one of the best in the game to do it. Me versus him, that little 3-play sequence that they had that's one that I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was awesome. I got a lot of respect for him, but Aaron is he's a special player.
And it sounds like Richardson made an impression on you, seeing him at field
he
level
did.
for the first time.
I thought even just to watch him string together, a lot of good plays, and he was able to create some things off schedule. I thought, the 2 seams that he completed in the pocket, he makes the go ball down the sidelines to Pierce, but you could just feel the athleticism, the composure. I thought he played with pretty good poise, and to be able to say you're down 23-0, and then to be able to lead your team on 23 straight points, 3 scoring drives, 2 of which you needed 2-point conversions to keep the game alive. You got to give the guy credit. And I think, I got a tremendous amount of respect for their coaches and Shane Steichen and Jim Bob Cooter and those guys. And, and they're a team. When you look at who they've played and how they've played through the first few weeks, it's a tough outfit, and definitely made a good impression.
I told you I was in the end zone when he scored, and he did that little touchdown celebration. I'm like, good God, that guy's up in the air. But you handled him, though. You really did. I mean, they wanted to win that game as much as you did, and it came down to making a handful of plays. And I have to point out, you lose on Monday, short week, and then you go to OT and win it. I mean, that's huge.
It was great.
Yeah.
And it was, I know our guys couldn't wait to go play again. A lot of travel, a lot of back and forth, but I do think it was good to be able to say, all right, we go right back out there, you get up, and now you go kick off and let's go. You're not necessarily hurrying up to wait like it felt like in Cincinnati. But I was really pleased. I thought there was a lot of maturity demonstrated from a lot of guys that were going through those situations for the first time. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses or anything about youth. That narrative's out the window, So let's keep maximizing this team. I love the way these guys come to work. I think that consistency compounds in a positive way, and I was proud of this group. I was proud of the resiliency, and now we're always going to keep striving for that improvement, and that will be no different. And even it would be the same dialogue and conversation I'd be having with you, even if we were able to put together a complete 4 quarters.
Looking at that game plan yesterday, I think a lot of people will say, okay, maybe lesson learned from Monday Night Football. It was balanced, it was diverse, got a lot of different people involved. To what extent is that true? And to what extent is it a matter of getting up 3 scores and seeing a different defense and personnel in Indianapolis?
I think it's all of the above. There's certainly some things, like I ask our players, you want to be able to learn. And there were some different things that we didn't execute or we didn't recognize, or, I didn't do a good enough job, all of which is true. And it's about how do you apply those lessons moving forward. But when you are able to be more efficient on some of the early downs, or not have penalties that shoot yourself in the foot and put you behind the sticks, you're going to be, just a better overall operation offensively. You're going to be able to activate different parts of your plan where you can truly have some of the early down philosophies of our offense come to life. And I thought that was a combination of, number one, it's always about the players, when good things happen, making it come to life. And then as it relates to some of the mistakes, it's let's all be accountable to look inward, to own our role within the framework of our responsibility, and then apply it as we move forward, and not be afraid to say, I can be better, and I will be.
How do you handle place kickers with situations like this? I mean, you still have trust in the guy.
I do.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, DeMarco, what you realize is that, man, have we been really fortunate since I've been here, with the guys mostly being Greg Zuerlein and Matt Gay. And Brett is an established player in this league that's operated at a high level. I think what you have to be considerate of is it's not exclusively on him. There's a hold, there's a snap, there's a protection. And then also we've asked him to, attempt some longer field goals. These aren't like, consistent inside the 40 attempts. These are 40 plus, some 50 pluses, and he's got great range. And so I think you want to be careful to over evaluate. I think you want to look at where are the areas that we can improve from an all 11, and let's see that applied. And there are some things from yesterday that I think he can make those, but I do trust that he's resilient and he can respond the right way. And he's shown that throughout his career.
In the context of opening up Cooper Kupp's practice window, I heard you say the same is true of O'Shawn Mathis as well. Not many of us have seen him in a live setting, but he sure looks the part. What can he bring to your outside linebacker group, and where are you at that position, bigger picture?
Yeah, I think, we're excited to be able to get O'Shawn back out on the grass, JB. He's a guy that, he's got the length, he's got the athleticism, he's got some nuances in it with his ability to be able to rush and put pressure on the quarterback. He was a guy that had really, taken great steps throughout the offseason program, and Then he had the unfortunate setback early on in training camp where, we were able to just kind of get going, and that happened really early in the 5-day acclimation period. But he's attacked his rehab really, the right way. He looks the part, like you said. Mm-hmm. I thought he had some tangible evidence of saying it's not just looking the part, but it's also being able to deliver on that with a small body of work, but something that we're excited to be able to, start that window, see exactly when that would be that he'd be ready to return to action. I certainly wouldn't rule out, Philly this week, but again, let's get these guys out on the field, both he and Cooper, and then let's see what that means as it relates to this coming Sunday.
Got to point out your field general too, Ernest Jones, again, led you in tackles.
Yeah,
the guy's just getting better and better.
He is. I thought even on the sack that he had earlier in the game, when Aaron ended up winning off his rush on their left tackle, defenses on the right side, he got flushed. And then there's a situation where, Ernest probably wanted to be able to run him into the sidelines, but ended up just running him out of bounds and kind of smartly being able to pull off. But he's been outstanding. He's another guy that's just been a great leader for our team and for our defense in particular.
For that defense and for your coordinator and friend Raheem Morris, if you're going to play the Colts and the Eagles in the same season, is it helpful to have them back to back? I'm not saying Richardson.
You got to have that approach,
but
you got to have that approach, and I think because there's such unique challenges that they present. There's a very similar foundational approach relative to their scheme and some of the things that both Richardson and Hurts, and obviously Richardson's really young in his career. Hurts has done an outstanding job, and his career and his resume is well documented, especially over the last couple years, and what he's done. And so that's the only choice you got. So right. We'll use it and we'll have an optimistic approach, but it's going to be a great challenge because their offense is a handful. They've got great players all over their offense. They do an excellent job. I think Brian Johnson has done a really nice job, taking over for Shane Steichen as the offensive play caller. And then Nick is heavily involved. Nick Sirianni, their head coach, with the offensive side as well with his background. But let's go, man. We're ready to go. We're excited.
They're asking me, are you guys scared? It's Philly. Scared? I'm excited. Let's get it on, man. Yeah.
Who asked that? Scared?
The Butcher. He's a fan.
We have tremendous respect for them, but if you don't love, the NFL ain't for you if you're scared.
See?
I want to know who on your look team is going to run the tush push, the brotherly shove this week. And do you need DeMarco for anything this week?
If we could replicate that, man, we'd be running that a lot more too. It is unbelievable. And Jeff Stoutland, their offensive line coach, going back a handful of years, he got there even when Coach Chip Kelly was there, who's just who I have tremendous respect for too. What a great job he does with that group up front and the nuances and the fine-tuned details at which they're able to execute that. It is something, isn't it? So no, I don't know that we can replicate
you're
that.
You're on the make.
We might have to get 6 DeMarcos across the board. You line up 5 offensive linemen, a tight end, maybe 7.
Wait, am I carrying it?
Both edges.
I don't get to carry it? I'm just blocking?
We'll put you at quarterback and accept the snap.
There you go. I'll do that
too.
I'll dive in there. I'll get you a first down.
Let's go.
Come on.
Let's play some home games. Let's get back to SoFi Stadium. A 3-game set begins in Week 5 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Sean, thank you for your time on this Monday. Have a good week ahead. DeMarco, JB, long. This, the Coach McVay Show, as always, presented by Microsoft Surface.
Yeah.